In Melee, the crouch cancel mechanic is one of the most oppressive techniques in the game from the defender's perspective. Crouch canceling is similar to setting up a trap for the attacker in that it lures them into attacking in a frame-negative manner. From there, the defender can capitalize with a huge punish. Crouch canceling can be truly difficult to deal with, as it often forces the attacker to space their attack or use other strategies in order to work around it. In a video I posted on Fox's drill, for example, I explained that Fox should look to hit a crouch canceling opponent with 2 or more hits of drill in order to break the crouch cancel, then apply true hit stun. This is an example of a more obvious strategy which crouch canceling forces, but there are several more hidden ones as well. Today we'll be going over some of the secrets behind crouch canceling. I have no doubt that this video will come in handy from both an offensive and defensive perspective. If you're a fan of this kind of melee content, I'd appreciate if you consider taking a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel before we begin. I also have a Twitch channel where you can watch me make use of these strategies in real time, so feel free to check that out as well. To start things off, let's go over what crouch canceling actually does. In Melee, attacks dish out percent as well as knockback. Hitlag is then derived directly from percent. The equation for hitlag is 3 plus percent divided by 3. This means that in the instance of Fox's early nair, each character will incur 7 frames of hitlag, and in the instance of Fox's late nair, each character will incur 6 hitlag. This can be seen in the freeze frames which occur once Fox's nair makes contact with the opponent. As for knockback, this stat varies depending on the defender's percent. If Fox lands the late hit of his nair on a Falcon who's at 0%, it'll apply 24.79 knockback. However, if we change Falcon's percent to 9, then the late nair will apply 31.59 knockback. These values are derived from the calculator on ineeddata.com, which is a useful resource I've included in the video description. Next, it's important to know that hit stun is calculated by multiplying knockback by 0.4. This means that 24.79 knockback equates to 9 frames of hit stun, and 31.59 knockback equates to 12 frames of hit stun. I chose these values because they'll come into play later on in the video, so keep them in mind. Finally, crouch cancel causes the defender to incur 1/3 less hit lag and hit stun. This means that in the instance of Fox's early nair, 7 hit lag will be reduced to 4 hit lag for the defender. To be exact, 7 hit lag gets reduced to 4.66 hit lag, which is then rounded down to 4. Then, in the instance of Fox's late nair dealing 24.79 knockback, this will be reduced to 16.54 knockback if the opponent crouch cancels. Now that we've gone over the basics of crouch canceling, let's go over one of its more hidden traits, which is the fact that it has subframe priority. Subframe priority refers to the order in which the game engine decides certain events will occur when they take place on the same frame. In the instance of crouch canceling, this determines what happens when your character is attacked on the exact frame they enter squat. When this happens, the squat animation won't be visible, which leaves us to wonder whether crouch cancel occurs or not. As it turns out, crouch cancel does occur when you're attacked on frame 1 of squat. This can be seen in this clip of Falcon incurring 4 frames of hit lag after being hit by a late nair. As you saw, the squat animation never came out, and yet hit lag and knockback were still decreased by 1/3. This makes crouch canceling slightly stronger than you might think, as it does in fact activate on this frame. The next subject we'll discuss is a complicated one that I like to call counterfeit crouch canceling. This subject pertains to ASDI down floor hugs and attacks that have trajectory 361. I covered these subjects a few years ago in a video titled The Most Misunderstood Mechanic in Melee. I'll be giving a brief recap of that video for your convenience. When you're struck by an attack which has an upwards trajectory in Melee, your character will be sent airborne. From there, ASDI down can be used to perform a physics exploit called a floor hug. This is when your character transitions to landing lag directly after hit lag. Most characters incur only 4 frames of downtime as a result of this. Things get interesting when the attacker uses an attack which has a trajectory called 361. Most players refer to this trajectory as the Sakurai angle, but 361 is the proper term for it within the game's code. As you can see on this article, attacks with trajectory 361 have a trajectory which varies depending on how much knockback the opponent takes. If the opponent takes 32 or less knockback, then the attack's trajectory will be 0. However, if they take any more knockback than that, then they'll be sent at an upwards angle. In Melee, things get interesting from the attacker's perspective because of trajectory 361. This is because the attacker can intentionally send the opponent at 0 degrees in order to deny them an airborne trajectory. This in turn denies the opponent the ability to perform an ASDI down floor hug. As you can see in this clip, the late hit of Fox's Nair causes a 0% Falcon to remain grounded, which forces him to incur hit stun. Earlier I showed that Falcon will still take less than 32 knockback even when he's at 9%. As you can see, Falcon takes 12 frames of grounded hit stun from Fox's weak Nair in this clip. The Uncle Punch reading says that Falcon has 10 frames of hit stun remaining because the first hit stun frame overlaps with the first hit lag frame. From there, we are currently viewing the first frame of post-hit lag hit stun. There are 11 of these in total. Once Falcon is at 10%, the Sakurai angle trick is no longer possible. Because Falcon now takes more than 32 knockback, he's sent airborne by Fox's late Nair, and so he can perform an ASDI down floor hug. This results in him incurring 4 frames of landing lag, which is better for him than the grounded hit stun he incurred in the previous clips. That leads me to a mistake Falcon can make in this situation. If 32 or less knockback is what it takes for the defender to remain grounded and crouch cancel shaves off 1/3 of your knockback, then that means there exists a range where crouch cancel can work to your disadvantage against attacks with trajectory 361. This range spans from greater than 32 knockback up to equal or less than 48 knockback. This is because attacks within this range will have their knockback reduced to the range which would cause grounded hit stun, which means that as the defender, you shouldn't crouch cancel when you're within this range. To show you what I mean, let's go back to the clip in which Falcon ate a late Fox Nair at 10%. As we saw, Falcon was able to ASDI down floor hug and incur 4 frames of landing lag because he was sent airborne by this Nair. Falcon was sent airborne because he incurred more than 32 knockback, as can be seen in the I need data calculator. Next, we can set the calculator to acknowledge that Falcon is crouching. This will result in Falcon incurring 21.57 knockback. To show you what will happen from here, Falcon will incur 4 frames of hit lag followed by 7 frames of post-hit lag hit stun. Now let's compare this to the alternative of simply ASDIing the late Nair down and performing a floor hug. Falcon can do this by holding down on the C stick. If Falcon ASDIs down without crouch cancelling, then both characters will incur 6 frames of hit lag. From there, I'll disregard the number of frames Fox spends airborne since that can vary. What's constant is the fact that Fox will incur 7 frames of Nair landing lag to Falcon's 4 frames of landing lag, which means that Falcon is +3 in this situation overall. Next, let's go over the scenario in which Falcon performs a crouch cancel. In this scenario, Fox incurs 6 frames of hit lag to Falcon's 4, which means Falcon gains +2 frame advantage in terms of hit lag. However, Falcon then takes 7 frames of post-hit lag hit stun in the best case scenario, which means that his hit stun lines up with Fox's landing lag. This means that Falcon is +2 overall at best. However, the situation can be made worse for him if he's at a percent which will cause him to incur more hit stun than this. This tends to happen because the counterfeit crouch cancel range is quite large. As can be seen on the I need data calculator, Falcon has to be wary of a counterfeit crouch cancel occurring all the way through 30%, as he'll still incur less than 32 knockback at that percent. In the worst case scenario, Falcon will incur 12 frames of hit stun, which translates to 11 frames of post-hit lag hit stun. This means that Falcon is anywhere between +2 and -2 when he counterfeit crouch cancels Fox's late Nair. What all of this means is that Falcon actually shouldn't have crouch cancelled in this situation. By crouch cancelling, Falcon adjusted his knockback into the range which caused Fox's late Nair to keep him grounded, which means that Falcon denied himself the ability to perform an ASDI down floor hug. I call this a counterfeit crouch cancel because the crouch cancel is unintuitive here, as it actually adds to the amount of downtime the defender takes. The next thing to be wary of is that some moves which wouldn't normally be able to cause less than 32 knockback actually can after a crouch cancel. I'll use the example of Fox's early Nair. Against a 0% Falcon who isn't crouch cancelling, Fox's Nair will always send Falcon airborne, and so he'll be able to perform an ASDI down floor hug. This amounts to Falcon being at least +3 against Fox, just like in the late Nair example. If Falcon crouch cancels, however, then he'll remain grounded and incur 9 frames of hit stun after hit lag. While Falcon gained 3 frames of advantage off of the hit lag calculations in this case, he then spent 9 frames in hit stun, and so he ends up only being +1. The range for an early Nair to be counterfeit crouch cancelled spans from 0% all the way up to 8%, so make sure to be wary of this as well as the defender. Just like before, it is possible for grounded hit stun to scale up to as much as 11 frames post hit lag, and so +1 is the best case scenario for Falcon. He can end up being -1 in the worst case scenario. The next and last chapter pertains to a strategy that I highly advocate for as the one on the offense, which is to approach crouch canceling opponents with moves that cause multiples of 3 hit lag. I'll be using this strategy to show you how to win a situation which comes up often in competitive play as spacies. This situation arises when the opponent sets up a crouch cancel in preparation for you to land on them with an early nair. From there, it'll be a race to see who wins between Fox's Shine or Falcon's crouch cancel grab. I'll be showing you a secret which will help you win this exchange as Fox. First, let's set Falcon to 9%. I chose 9% because this is the percent at which Falcon stops being counterfeited by crouch cancel. As you can see, Falcon starts being sent airborne by Fox's early nair even after a crouch cancel at 9%, and so he's able to perform a crouch cancel followed by an ASDI down floor hug. This means that it's good for Falcon to crouch cancel in this situation, to be clear. The first thing we ought to establish is that the ball is always in Fox's court in this situation. This is because if Fox hits Falcon with the deepest possible nair, Fox will incur 7 frames of hit lag to Falcon's 4, which means Falcon gained +3 off of hit lag. Then Fox will incur 7 frames of landing lag to Falcon's 4, which means Falcon gained +3 off of landing lag as well. This means that Falcon is +6 in total. However, Fox can afford to be as much as -6 and still win the situation thanks to Shine, which will come out on the 7th frame of Falcon's grab. Thus, the ball is in Fox's court on a theoretical level. The problem is that in practice, Fox won't always be able to perform the deepest nair. There is incentive to nair earlier within Fox's descent in order to intercept other options. However, Fox can't risk doing that in the example we just saw. If Fox nairs even a frame earlier, then he'll be negative against crouch cancel grab. Fortunately for Fox, there's a way to improve his frame data in this situation. Believe it or not, this is done by staling his nair so that it will deal 6 hit lag. The reason this works is because it manipulates crouch cancel's hit lag reduction in Fox's favor. Earlier I explained that crouch cancel shaves off a third of the defender's hit lag. Crouch cancel then rounds down the value afterward. This means that if Fox's nair is dealing 12%, then he'll take 7 hit lag to the opponent's 4. But if his nair is dealing 10%, which it will if it's slightly stale, then he'll take 6 hit lag to the opponent's 4. This is better for Fox because it means he ends up being -2 off of hit lag as opposed to -3 had the nair been unstale. I've included some clips as proof that this strategy is real. First, let's hit a crouching Falcon with an unstale nair. As you can see from the Uncle Punch readings, Falcon gains +3 off of hit lag in this situation. Now let's nair Falcon again. This time he only gains +2. We can make use of the extra frame of leniency that a stale nair offers us by nairing a frame earlier within our descent, as can be seen in this clip. Fox will spend a single frame airborne before landing this time around, but he'll still be able to win the situation thanks to the extra frame of leniency. This matters a lot in competitive play, as the difference between 1 and 2 frames of leniency shouldn't be underestimated. To recap the video, we started with an overview of what crouch canceling actually does. Crouch canceling shaves off a third of the defender's hit lag and knockback, which opens up the door for several complicated interactions. Next, we discussed the fact that crouch canceling has subframe priority. This means that the first frame of squat is valid for a crouch cancel even if it isn't visible, which makes crouch canceling a bit stronger than you might think. From there, we delved into some of the more complicated interactions I was mentioning. We started with counterfeit crouch canceling, which is the term I use to describe when the defender makes the mistake of crouch canceling against an attack with trajectory 361 when they would normally incur between 32 and 48 knockback. This will backfire on the defender because it'll prolong the percent range for which these attacks will send them at 0 degrees. The fact that the defender cannot ASDI down floor hug as a result means that it would have been better to just ASDI down without crouch canceling. This is done by either holding the analog stick down during an animation state that isn't squat or crouch, or by holding the C-stick down. It is also worth noting that crouch cancel makes it possible for certain attacks which would normally always cause more than 32 knockback to dip below 32 knockback. This means that certain attacks with trajectory 361, such as Fox and Falco's early nair, shouldn't be crouch cancelled either within a certain percent range, as it would have been better to ASDI down by itself within that range. Finally, we went over the fact that it's best to attack a crouch cancelling opponent with attacks which generate multiples of 3 hit lag. This is because the defender's hit lag won't round down after a third of their hit lag is shaved off, and so they'll gain as little frame advantage as possible from crouch cancelling these attacks. I recommend finding out which of your character's moves can be stale to your advantage. In the instance of Fox and Falco's early nerf, for example, staleness helps Fox and Falco gain an additional frame of leniency against crouch cancel by altering their hit lag favorably. That wraps up today's video. Next week I'll be taking a detour from the educational videos to provide the community with a crucial video which will weigh in on controller politics. The Melee community is currently on the cusp of making some huge changes to its controller rule set in January, so make sure to be on the lookout if you're interested in hearing my take on things. With that being said, take care.